Something whispers in the dark, in the pockets where the light doesn't exist, in the early morning shadows that stretch along sunlight, in the late night beyond the reach of the dim fluorescence, beyond the doors shrouded in darkness, in the rooms you cannot see into. It waits and it watches. When you least expect it, this entity, composed of all of our worst tendencies and anxieties and fears, slithers out of the darkness. And just as you are about to scream, it takes your voice. The Silencer is a horror series that delves into this terrifying reality, one where the physical embodiment of our darkest thoughts and anxieties comes to life. This entity steals away our ability to speak and traps us in eternal darkness. While this series only has 2 episodes at this point, it is worth diving into and dissecting for its important discussions on mental health and the effect it has on so many of us. Let's turn off the lights and turn on the TV. The Silencer waits just around the corner. Our series starts with Sophia. Something awful has happened. Fingers twisted inside her chest, and suddenly, she was trapped. And then, it was here. Despite her best efforts to tell her boyfriend, Vicente, she cannot get the words out. She goes entirely unheard. No matter how much she yells, it steals her words. It silences her. And as the days roll by, she seems unable to reach Vicente, unable to voice what's happening to her. Sophia tries breaking plates. Tries writing on the wall, but nothing works. It always lurks in the corners, always hushing her, always whispering. The entity twists her words and darkens her reality, never allowing her to speak up, to say what she truly feels. As we established, the story so far follows Sophia, a woman afflicted by an entity, or referred to as the Silencer. At some point in time, this entity became attached to Sophia through unknown means, seeming to manifest from nothing at all. Sophia describes the sensation as fingers twisting inside my chest, as if the entity has physically reached into her and bound itself to her soul. From this point on, Sophia exists in a limbo state. While she can only perceive darkness, the world outside has shining light. While she tries to vocalize her distress, the words that come out of her mouth respond in a way that people, especially her boyfriend Vicente, would expect. From a lore perspective, we can make the assumption the Silencer is some kind of malignant, parasitic entity. Whether it is a demon or some other supernatural force is unclear at this point. An interesting point in the story is the difference in perception. On one hand, Sophia sees a world trapped in eternal darkness and housing unimaginable horrors. On the other hand, it seems as though the world outside is operating as normal. A major question is where Sophia truly lies. Does she occupy some limbo space between realities? Is she simply a victim of distorted perception brought on by the silencer? Is this malignant entity rewriting reality in real time to better fit its narrative? Or is the silencer in the driver's seat, while Sophia can only passively observe? And when her personality grows too dominant, the silencer hushes her into passivity once more. And the most important question of all, what does this entity want? Why did it latch onto Sophia of all people? What does it seek to gain from her after all is said and done? Is its true purpose simply to inflict harm, or does it have an objective? Only time will tell. Episode 2 picks up Sophia's story. Still in her house, reality continues to be blanketed in darkness. A knock at the door breaks the silence. Her brother Julio arrives at her house with alcohol. In an attempt to be heard, she smashes the bottles on the ground. But yet again, the silencer seems to rewrite reality itself, and the bottles are back in Julio's hands. Sophia notes that her brother isn't doing well. On top of tobacco usage, her brother is addicted to illicit substances. She worries that one day he'll take the wrong thing, and she just wishes to be able to talk with him. Julio changed after their father's death, and seemed to cut himself off completely, unable to talk. When Sophia comes to, Julio is gone. Sophia finds Julio overdosing on the bathroom floor. She tries to tell Vicente, but no words are getting through. Sophia tries her best to keep Julio alive before a bit of tinfoil is shoved in her face. Now high, Sophia is able to see the outside world beyond the dark veil the silencer has cast over it. And we cut to Julio's perspective. Since he was 7, no one has hurt him. After the death of their father, the silencer latched onto him and followed him his entire life. He discovered that, through self-medication, he was able to make the entity go away, if only for a little while. That day, Julio realizes the silencer has latched onto Sophia as well. Now that they're both under the influence, they flee, heading far into the distance. And as the video ends, Julio encourages her to take more. Episode 2 provides much more lore on the origins of the Silencer and its overall intentions. The entity acts as a kind of parasitic demon that transfers from one host to another through heredity. Originally, it seems the entity latched onto Sofia and Julio's father. But after his death, the entity moved on to Julio, likely as the oldest next of kin, and since he was 7, has lived under the shadow of the Silencer. However, we get a glimpse at a way around the entity's influence, an altered state of mind. Julio has been using any means necessary in order to counteract the entity's stranglehold on his life. Alcohol, methamphetamine, and any other substance or drug of choice to keep this monster at bay. However, as we know, this puts a very real clock on his life. Sofia mentions that one day he will take the wrong thing, and that will be it for him. And now, Sofia's in a similar boat. It's likely that this workaround that Julio discovered is also the reason why the entity has moved on to Sofia. If it cannot claim Julio, or exert a level of control at once over his life, then it will transfer over to the next of kin, his younger sister Sofia. Now with both of their lives in danger and actively avoiding the entity at all costs, the Silencer may possibly ramp up its influence on their lives. We may soon see that turning to substance abuse will not be enough to truly escape its grasp, or possibly, it may wind up ending their lives. One way or another, unless they can break through to the outside world and truly be heard, the Silencer will claim their lives. Let's align the lore. At some point in the past, Julio and Sofia's father became infected with a parasitic supernatural entity we know as the Silencer. Through some means, whether by his own hand or an outside influence, their father dies. With the host gone, the Silencer moves on to the next of kin, Julio, silencing him at the age of 7. Julio is forced to grow up with this monster attached to him. It shrouds his world in darkness until he finds a way out: substance abuse. This puts a real countdown on his life, but he escapes the monster's grasp despite it. With his control over Julio slipping, the Silencer then moves on to terrorizing the next of kin, his younger sister, Sofia. Sofia is suddenly and inexplicably pulled into a world of darkness. There, she is haunted by the Silencer. It rearranges her words and rewrites her actions, having her act as if everything is okay. However, on the inside, she wages her own battle against this nightmarish entity that exerts more and more influence over her life each passing day. One evening, Julio visits Sofia and realizes the Silencer has instead latched onto her. In a ditch effort to free her, Julio gets Sofia high forcibly to momentarily give her freedom from the creature. And from there, the two venture off into the unknown. From a visual and aesthetic standpoint, the series also takes inspiration from the Insidious franchise, the first and second installments to be specific. The way the Silencer acts and influences Sofia and Julio is reminiscent of that of the red-faced demon from the Insidious films. Even the demon appearing behind Sofia at the dinner table and its overall posture are inspired by scenes from the first film. The limbo the characters find themselves in is also similar to the astral plane, with the Silencer stepping into the driver's seat to control its host. Both series also play on mental health disorders and how these can be passed from one generation to another, just like a malignant spirit. From an allegorical standpoint, the Silencer itself represents mental health disorders, most strongly with that of depression and addiction. Like the Silencer appearing out of thin air, depression and other mental health disorders can also manifest seemingly out of the blue. No prior trigger, traumatic event, or other instigating factor is necessarily needed for these disorders to manifest, much in the same way that the silencer appears in Sophia's life spontaneously. The tingling sensation akin to the fingers twisting inside her chest is the physical response to depression. A sense of looming dread and anxiety before the emptiness sets in. Just like those suffering from depression, the silencer intentionally steals its victim's ability to properly communicate. The entity makes them feel isolated and unable to escape, much in the same way that depression does. Although Sophia may appear fine on the outside, answering questions and going about her daily normal life, on the inside, she's waging an entirely different struggle. Instead of the shining light of the day, she faces the darkness of her own inner thoughts, represented by the silencer. She wants to speak, but this monster, both literal and metaphorical, prevents her from doing so. Much like those suffering from depression, she feels trapped and isolated. With no way out and with no one to speak to, the silencer slowly grows in power and in influence. This influence culminates in horrible outcomes. As we've seen with Sophia and Julio's father, the overall objective of the silencer is to end its host's life. Similar to depression, the way the silencer feeds off of the host's own thoughts and emotions, controlling their everyday lives, has a profound impact on their livelihood. If the individual doesn't feel heard, doesn't feel as though they're able to adequately vocalize their emotions, they may seek the only option they feel they have. And for many, especially in Sophia's case where the silencer appears seemingly entirely out of the blue, they may feel as though they have no reason for feeling this way, only heightening their state of internal distress. The silencer's tendency to latch on to specific families also harkens to the fact that many mental health disorders, like depression, can be hereditary. And since we know the silencer likely latched onto Sophia and Julio's father first, it tracks that the silencer, like these disorders, are passed down to the children. At any point, the disorder may manifest in a victim. Whether the individual is 7 years old or 27 years old, the disorder, like the silencer, does not discriminate. Julio, and by extension Sophia, represent how mental health disorders can lead to self-destructive behaviors. In Julio's case, he seeks out alcohol and illicit substances in order to self-medicate. He uses the highs and the euphoria to escape the pain and isolation he feels on the inside. However, the series doesn't use this to glamorize destructive methods of coping, nor does it promote it. Instead, it highlights how dangerous and damaging this behavior is, and how some isolated individuals feel as though it is their only relief from the pain. Through Julio's eyes, his addictions are what give him momentary relief, and on the flip side, those suffering may even view it as a slower method of self-destruction. Reckless behavior until it all finally stops. And through Sophia's eyes, we see firsthand how concerned she is for her brother's well-being, fully acknowledging that, at some point, her brother is going to overdose. It puts a ticking clock on Julio's life, and at some point, it is going to strike midnight. If we're discussing trauma and disorders passed down from parents to children, then the conversation about addiction also needs to be had as well. Given that both Julio and Sophia are now self-medicating by the end of the series to cope with this allegory for depression, the series is also weaving in this element along with depression. Substance use disorders, or SUDs, can be woven into an individual's DNA provided by a parent, making them more susceptible for developing harmful addictions later in life. SUDs, along with mental health disorders like anxiety and depression, can prove devastating to an individual in a susceptible situation or frame of mind. The silencer seeks to shine a light on these struggles and how destructive and isolating depression and addiction can be in a person's life. This is what the series represents so far. The internal struggles and vices we all face in our day-to-day lives. Mental health crises, substance abuse, isolation, and all of our self-destructive tendencies. It is a difficult conversation to have, and even more difficult to navigate with respect and with dignity. Too often does the media glamorize or romanticize mental health and addiction without fully showing the devastating effects it has on individuals and their families. And while the series is young, I do think, in its current state, it highlights an important conversation in a respectful manner. I truly hope that this sincerity remains. The Silencer is an allegory for the internal struggles that silence us, that place us in a world of darkness, and isolate us from those around us. And while getting help is easier said than done, there are resources that can help. If you or a loved one are struggling with mental health issues or substance use, please reach out for help. Call or text 988 to access the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or go online at chat.988hotline.org. Thank you all for watching.
You